my antique couch and my crazy day. Hello you all, I'm Diana Brienne. Well, I want to show you my antique couch here. Lo and behold, on the way home today in the rain, an hour away that I go to college, I decided to stop at my favorite place. It's kind of a thrift shop. I lovingly call it the junk store. And it's really not a junk store. It gets all kinds of wonderful items that people donate, and all the proceeds go to the local community to help those in need. And so I love to shop there, and I never know what I'm going to get, and the prices are really, really reasonable. And as you all know, I have a lot of antiques. I am like the little old lady in the Twilight Zone that peeps out the window with all of her antiques. So anyhow, this couch is about 100 years old, and so I asked everyone if they could help me lift it in, and they did, into the back of the truck. And so we lifted the couch into the back of the truck, and I brought it home, and then my son helped me, carry it into the house. So I know exactly where I am going to put it. But anyhow, I have had a crazy day. And so I thought I'd come on here, share a few moments, and then I'm heading for the gym to do my cardio burn workout and the rest of my workout, then come back home and do all of my homework. And I've got tons and tons of homework. And I am up till about 4 o'clock in the morning doing homework. But anyhow, what I wanted to say is that, so I left here this morning. It was raining. I drove an hour away. And when I got to the college, I parked next to a truck that was the same make, model, year as mine. And I thought, oh boy, I hope they don't get confused or I get confused. Anyhow, as I was getting out of my truck, I realized I couldn't find my keys. Well, I knew that I hadn't been anywhere else but inside the truck, and I couldn't have got there without the keys. So I ended up dumping my purse out in the parking lot, trying to sort through it. Everything was out everywhere, and could not find the keys. I looked all through the truck, could not find it. Looked through my book bag, looked through my computer bag, could not find the keys. And I began to think, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? I'm an hour away from home. And then I stuck my hand down in between the seats, and there they were. They had fallen in between the crack between the seats. So I had to put everything back in my purse. I got my keys. I went to see my advisor because I'm taking a lot of classes, and some of them are a little bit hard. And so she was wonderful. She set me down. She explained everything, and I feel a lot better. So always remember, ask for help. That's what I do. And people will help you achieve your dream. And so anyhow, I went to class and did all that, and that was great. And so when I come back out, the blue truck next to my blue truck is still there. But now another truck is parked to the side, a big truck like mine, and then a big truck behind me. And I only had a little bit of space to get out. And so I was having a really hard time getting out, because essentially I was blocked in. So I had to go in and out, in and out, in and out for about 15 minutes. And there was no one in the parking lot to guide me, and which was kind of ironic because the college is really busy, but there was no one that passed by. Finally, I got out of there. Then I drove all the way home, and in the rain, and then it stopped raining. And so I went to my favorite place just to say hi to my friends that work there. And there was this beautiful antique couch. And so now I've got to find a place in my house to put it. And, I love antiques, and they're very reasonable there, and it goes to a good cause. And so, yeah, I got antiques. I got this couch, and I'm excited. So I am going to go and go to the gym and get some stress, get my stress out of me. And not that I have a lot, but still, it's good to work out. And going to go work out, and then come home and do my homework. Yeah, make dinner and do homework. So that's my 100-year-old couch. And look at the woodwork there. That is just beautiful wood. So I hope you're all doing well, and I will talk to you all soon. From my house to yours, God bless you. Talk to you then. Bye-bye. I bought a new air fryer. Hello, you all. I'm Diana Brienne. Well, it's getting late night here, and I got home about an hour ago. We went about an hour away, and I went to the store. And as I was shopping, I remembered one of my friends said to me, she said, you know what, you need to buy an air fryer. They're absolutely wonderful. And I said, well, what is an air fryer? She said, well, you don't have to use oil, and it cooks the food really fast and really good. And she bought one. And you know, I kind of can be impressionable as well. And so she made that suggestion. And so I bought a new air fryer tonight. So I'm going to show it to you, okay? It's still in the box, and it's a compact air fryer. Now, if you ask me how do I use it or what's it all about, I cannot honestly tell you that because I don't know. I don't know. I really don't know. And so I am going to learn it, and then I'll tell you all about it. I don't fry anything in oil. I used to, but I don't anymore. And any kind of oil, whether it's hydrogenated, I don't use, but even regular oil, healthier oil, I don't use either. And so I thought, well, you know what? An air fryer sounds pretty good because it cooks the food, I guess, much the way that you would if you were going to use oil. And so I'm going to try it. We'll see. We'll see how it goes, and I'll let you know about it. I eat very healthy, and I try to stay away from fried foods. And, you know, but I do love, French fries, homemade French fries. And, you know, of course, French fries take oil, and I don't like to use that oil. And then if I bake them, they don't always come out quite right. So maybe, just maybe, with this new air fryer, maybe that will kind of work. I hope so. I hope so, because I'm kind of excited about it. Plus, I bought it an hour away, and if I didn't like it, it's really too far for me to take it back. So that's the disadvantage of going shopping an hour away. So it's Saturday night, and I am getting ready to do my homework, and I have a lot of it. As many of you know, I went back to college at age 62. So I am up till 2, 3 o'clock, sometimes 4 in the morning, working on projects and doing homework and studying. I chose to take on that many courses, and it was my choice to do so. And I love it. I love it. I'm learning a lot. It's fun. At age 62, going back to college. You know, I told my kids, I said, you should be proud. Not many moms at 62-year-old moms go back to college, and they agreed. And so tonight I'm going to be up, and I'm going to be working and studying and doing all that good stuff. But I am going to try my fryer, my air fryer, and so I will let you all know. I'll let you all know how it goes. And if you have had an air fryer and you like it or don't like it or whatever, leave me a comment. I would love to know what you think of the air fryers. Okay. Well, have a great evening, and I hope to talk to you soon. From my house to yours, God bless you, and I'll talk to you then. A little at a time. Hello, you all. I'm Diana Brienne. Well, I've got my big ugly glasses on here because I've been studying. You all know I'm a 62-year-old college student. I went back to college last year, and I love it. I love it, but I have a lot of projects and a lot of work. So when I'm sitting behind the computer or behind the books or working on a project, I tend to wear glasses. I have 20/20 vision, even at age 62. And yet when it comes to reading, it gets a little bit fuzzy, and I have to strain a little bit, so I just wear glasses. So let me take them off. Anyhow, I wanted to talk to you all about a little at a time. You know, every week my lessons open up on Sunday night at midnight. Now, even though I go in person to class, everything tends to be done online, even in the classroom setting. And on Sunday night at midnight, when everything comes open in all my classes, it can be a bit overwhelming and a bit intimidating. And so what I do is I just take it a little at a time, a step at a time. and I head in the right direction, and I keep moving. And you know what? This week, actually, I got done pretty much early, and I just took it a little at a time. I was steady. You know, anything in life is like that for the most part, I think. Even building a YouTube channel, a little at a time. Some people want it to be an instant success overnight. And generally speaking, it takes a lot of work, and it takes a little at a time, a little bit every day. A lot of people want instant results, and so they get no results. But if we take life a little bit at a time and we stay consistent day in, day out, day in, day out, week in, week out, month in, month out, year in, year out, we're going to likely see a lot of results, because most results add up over time. Most results don't come instantly. And so I believe in taking life a step at a time, a little bit at a time, and often we will get where we want to go. So remember the concept of taking things a little at a time. Well, I hope you subscribe to my YouTube channel, a little at a time, and I hope to talk to you all soon. May God bless you. From my house to yours. Talk to you then. Bye-bye. Third voices, people who create disharmony and chaos. Hello, you all. I'm Diana Brienne. Well, I'm a believer that when there's disharmony in a good situation, you know, a situation's been good and all of a sudden it's not so good, often it's the third voice that has entered, a negative third voice. There can be good third voices and there can be negative third voices. And I believe that good third voices bring harmony and bad third voices bring disharmony. They bring chaos. They bring confusion. They bring doubt. They bring all the negative emotions. It can be on a job. It can be in the workplace. It could be at church. It could be in the neighborhood. It could be in a marriage. It can be in the family. You know, often when things become out of order, when things become not good, often a third voice of some kind has entered into that situation. Sometimes a relationship, a marriage will go south because one of the spouses is listening to a wrong third voice. It could be a friend or it could be something more, but they're listening to somebody who's spreading doubt. Sometimes people spread doubt very subtly. They do it very, very carefully. And they say, oh, I'm just your friend. I'm just trying to help you. And they're putting doubt in that person's mind for their own benefit. Sometimes it can be in the workplace. Everybody was getting along, doing just great, and now everybody is bickering. Why? Because somebody entered that situation, or someone changed that situation through negativity. And so I'm very guarded against who enters my life and what they have to say. I even remember a good person in my life many years ago told me something kind of negative about someone else. They were well-meaning. They thought that they were correct, but I realized it wasn't correct. And even though they were a well-meaning person, their information was wrong. So they were an incorrect third voice, even though they were well-intended. And so I caught that. Otherwise, I could have misinterpreted the actions of someone else the wrong way. And so we have to be careful of even well-intended third voices that have misinformation, that are faulty in their assessments. But most often, it's not like that. Most often, it's people that have entered that are stirring the pot, that are creating havoc and disharmony. And there are good third voices, people who bring harmony into relationships, people who bring good stuff into relationships, people who bring healing and nurturing and all that is positive. So we have to differentiate between a good third voice and a negative third voice. And I avoid the negative third voices if at all possible. And I identify them if I see any kind of disharmony that is taking place. From my house to yours, may God bless you, and I hope to talk to you soon again, and I hope you subscribe to my YouTube channel. From my beautiful day to yours, may God bless you, and I hope to talk to you then. Bye-bye. Keeping a great smile. Hello, you all. I'm Diana Brienne. Well, someone asked me the other day, what is your dental routine like? It means like, how do I brush my teeth? But first, let me show you my beautiful day out here. It is just absolutely, absolutely beautiful. Can you see it? I'm going for my run in a moment. Yes, so you want to know my dental routine. Too much information, right? TMI. I think that's the abbreviation. Too much information. Well, I take great care of my teeth, and even my dentist said so, that I have amazing gums and amazing teeth. And I don't recommend anything to anyone. I don't suggest, I don't give advice. This is just my routine, what I do. Well, first of all, I do what I call mouth rinses, and sometimes I do like just a table salt, a little bit of table salt in some warm water, and I rinse my mouth with that periodically through the day. Other times I do a wheatgrass, just simple wheatgrass that we get from the health food store, mix some in some water, and I switch that around in my mouth. I heard somewhere that chlorophyll in that helped the mouth, the gums, and I don't know if it's true. I just heard it, so I do it. And then the other thing I do for mouth rinse is coconut oil. Once a day, I put a tablespoon or teaspoon of coconut oil in my mouth and swish it around, and then I spit it out. And so that's my routine with mouth rinses. I have an electric toothbrush, and I love it. And I use it, and I feel like it really, really cleans my teeth, and gets rid of any kind of potential plaque. And so I use that several times a day. And I do a water pick. Now, for me, the water pick was sort of a waste of money. And a lot of people say, well, I love a water pick. Yeah, okay, that's good. But for me, I normally would just take water and swish it around, and it seemed to have the same effect. I don't know if it does or doesn't, but for me it did. So I kind of wasted my money in a way on a water pick, and I bought one for each family member too, and they're not cheap. And so I do use a water pick, but I also swish water around in my mouth, and I chew gum. My grandmother told me one time that chewing gum will keep your teeth clean. Don't know whether that's true, but I chew gum a lot. And sometimes I forget, and I'm on a video, and I'm chewing gum, and it shows, and then I have to throw the video away. That's the downside of chewing gum. So I use a regular toothbrush as well with toothpaste, and it depends on the toothpaste. I usually use like a Charter type of toothpaste, and a brightening toothpaste and all that. And so that's kind of my routine that I do. Don't suggest it to anybody. It's just what I do. And when I go to the dentist, I go every 3 months to have my teeth cleaned. I think normal is every 6 months. And my teeth and my gums are in great shape. And so I want to keep them that way. One of the things is, after the age of 60, a lot of people have problems with their teeth and their gums. And I always want to avoid that by taking great care of my own teeth and great care of my dental. Now, with my vibrating toothbrush, I went the other day with my son, and I bought the wrong extra little brushes that go to it, and they're not cheap. They were like $30. So my husband's returning them and getting the correct one. So if you have a vibrating toothbrush and you replace the brush itself on it, make sure to get the right one and not the wrong one like I did. And for the one I have, you have to actually buy the whole part. And for some of the others, you just have to buy the little brush, the tip of it. And so yeah, that's what I do. I drink a lot of water, I stay away from garbage food, and I brush a lot and go to the dentist. Okay, so that's my morning routine and my routine throughout the day for my dental care. From my house to yours, make sure to subscribe, please, and I hope to talk to you soon. God bless you. Bye-bye. A new normal. The new normal. Hello, y'all. I'm Diana Brianne, and I got to thinking today about the new normal. What is the new normal? Well, after a big event has taken place in one's life, often they have to create a new normal. Sometimes things don't go back exactly to the way they were. Sometimes they do. Sometimes things do go back to exactly the way they were, but sometimes they don't. So what happens when life does not go back to exactly the way it was? An event or events took place that changed the course and direction of one's life. I believe a new normal takes place. And in order to make a positive new normal, one has to make positive, ongoing decisions going forward that may be different decisions than they would have made in the past. Because when we create a new normal for ourselves, life often will look different. It won't look the same. And so a new normal can be perhaps a person has had to make a move due to a job change, a job loss. Perhaps a new normal will be new friendships. Perhaps the old friendships moved away. Perhaps someone has had a health crisis, and because of that health crisis, their life has taken a change, and they have to create a new normal. Perhaps they've had a new opportunity to create a new and wonderful life, and yet it's going to look different than their old life because of that new opportunity that they've chosen to take. Perhaps it could be a change in relationship status, and so now there's going to be a new normal within that relationship, or perhaps just a totally new relationship or a life without that relationship in some way. So I believe that when we go through a new normal, into a new normal, sometimes it can take time to adjust. And that adjustment period is an important part of the process so that we can grow, develop, and decide how we want our life to look going forwards. And sometimes we have to tweak it. Sometimes we have to work with it. Sometimes it can seem a little confusing because everything else has changed around it, perhaps. And so when life is a new normal, we create a new normal. We create a new way of being. We create a new excellence in our lives. Some people fall apart with a new normal. They don't want to go forward. They want to hold on to the past. They keep looking back rather than look to the present and to the future. And there's nothing wrong with looking back. And yet, I believe it's very, very important for us to keep our eyes on the road ahead. So if there's a new normal in life, often we will have to make new decisions, new choices, perhaps have new ways of doing things. And yet, there's opportunity in that new normal, and we have to seek it out if we want to be successful in life. So when a new normal has taken place in life, remember, give yourself time to adjust, make great decisions, and then embrace all the good from that new normal. From my house to yours, may God bless y'all, and I'll talk to y'all soon again. Bye-bye. When you are happy. A happier you. Hello, y'all. I'm Diana Brienne, and I'm sitting out here on Grandma's porch. It's so beautiful today. We're just having an absolutely incredible day. And I get to thinking about a happier you. You know, when you're happy, the world seems happy around you. At least it seems that way to me. And I think when a person is in a happy state of mind, they tend to do their best in relationships. They do their best on their job. They do their best in pretty much nearly every area of their life. But when they're unhappy, they tend to not do so good in their relationships. They don't do so good in their job. They don't do so good in, areas of their life because, well, when we're unhappy, we tend to be running on a different kind of energy than we run on when we're happy. And so I think it's important that if we're unhappy, and everybody has moments where they're not happy. Everybody does. I mean, you're not alone if you've been unhappy. I think it's important to figure out what's making us unhappy. A lot of times people are just tired. They're just tired and worn out. And being tired and worn out, it's a natural response to be unhappy. I know that when I'm exhausted, I tend not to be so happy. But when I'm rested, I tend to be a lot happier. And I tend to have a lot more positive energy. And when we're exhausted, we tend to pull back our energy and we're not giving things what we want to give it. Sometimes I think the best thing we can do for ourselves, our relationships, our jobs, is to go and rest, recharge, and to regroup ourselves so that we can get into a place where we feel happy. And when we're happy, we tend to look at things differently as well. When we're unhappy, we tend to put a negative slant on things. When we're happy, we tend to put a positive slant on things. And we tend to get positive energy when we're happy. And so I think it's really important to give ourselves that rest time, that relaxation time, to nurture ourselves and to take care of ourselves so that we can be great in our relationships, so that we can be great on our jobs, so that we can be great in our lives in general. And so I think being happy is important. And that's why on my channel, I talk a lot about happiness and how to be happy. Actually, that's what my channel is about. So anyhow, from my beautiful day to yours, may God bless you. And I hope to talk to you soon again. From Grandma's porch, I'll talk to you then. Bye-bye. A small dose of correction goes a long, long ways. A small dose of correction will go a long, long ways. Hello, you all. I'm Diana Brienne. You probably are hearing my washer go in the background. I have a big kind of, well, it's not big, but it's like a little suitcase, a big little suitcase that I'm washing. It's kind of a fold-up suitcase I'm washing in the wash that's making a lot of noise. So anyhow, I got to thinking about when we correct someone. Now, you know, I talk about criticism and correction, the difference. Criticism is usually done to diminish someone or embarrass them, and it's usually done in front of other people. Not always is it done in front of other people, but most often because, well, someone wants to get the most impact for their criticism, and doing it in front of other people gives them that. Whereas correction is done for the good of another, to help them either see what they're not seeing or to correct what they haven't corrected yet. And it's done with the best intention of the other person, and it's usually done in private. Sometimes it can't be done in private, sometimes it's done more publicly, but that can border on criticism when it's done in front of other people. So we have to be very, very careful. If we're going to correct someone, I think it's very important to try to do it privately and ask them if we can have a few minutes of their time or whatever. Now, the other thing we have to keep in mind is a soft approach is so much better, because a small dose of correction, even no matter how well intended, can go a long, long ways. And people can often distort that and think of it as criticism. Because, you know, people often say, well, I'm just telling you this for your own good. Well, not always is someone doing that, and sometimes it is criticism. So some people disguise criticism and try to make it look like correction when it really isn't. And so, you know, someone who is getting a correction, it can feel very much like getting a criticism. So our approach has to be very soft, very thoughtful. We have to choose our words wisely. And I believe that the less said, the better in most cases, because if we go on and on and on, the person is likely to tune us out or turn against what we are saying, so to speak. And so we want them to get what we truly mean. And what we truly mean is that we want them to take a look at an area of their life that we see that maybe they can improve upon. And so I'm very, very careful. And usually if I correct, it's usually only with someone I really, really know really well. And and I don't even correct someone that I know really, really well if I don't think they're going to listen, because some people don't want to listen, and to correct them is going to do no good. So I don't correct everyone. I correct very, very few people. Now, if someone's correcting me for something, I would hope that they take me aside privately, talk to me about it very gently, and I'll be fine with that. And actually, we'll take a look at what they're saying as perhaps maybe I want to implement that. Because correction, if you can't be corrected, you're probably going to fail a lot more in life, because correction is a necessary part of us learning and us developing and us becoming our best selves. And it's part of the success process. So we do want correction, but we want it done right too. And when we're correcting, we have to think, how would I feel if this was in reverse? And how would I take it? Would I take it as criticism, or would I take it as correction? And so even though we may mean it as correction, sometimes people will take it as criticism. So we have to be very, very gentle when we correct someone. From my house to yours, from my noisy washer to wherever you're at, may God bless you, and I hope to talk to you soon again. Bye-bye. Handle difficult people quietly. Hello, you all. I'm Diana Brienne. Well, I got to thinking about difficult and challenging people, and how do I handle them? I have my own unique way of handling difficult and challenging people. I don't like confrontation if I don't have to have it. I think confrontation in most cases is so unnecessary. And how I handle difficult and challenging people is I handle them quietly. Sometimes I don't even respond back. I don't go into what they're trying to pull me into. I simply will, sometimes answer something like, "Oh, is that right? Do tell." Kind of a non-committal response. And often it takes that to smooth things over. And when we stir the pot with a difficult person, often that can create unnecessary havoc and unnecessary problems. I do not believe that I always have to prove my point to somebody, especially a challenging and difficult person. If someone is challenging and difficult in my life ongoing, I tend to avoid them, move back from them, sometimes completely leave that relationship altogether, whether it's a workplace relationship, whether it's a personal relationship, whether it's a social relationship, almost any kind of relationship. If someone is challenging and difficult on an ongoing basis, I try to handle it quietly. I try to handle it softly. Often I've heard a soft word, I can't remember how that goes, but a soft word carries no moss or something like that, or rolling stone. It's one of those sayings, which I can't think of at the moment. And yet I believe that sometimes a soft word, a quiet word, can do so much better than having a harsh word in response. Challenging and difficult people are out there. That's not our problem unless we allow it to be our problem, unless we let it be our problem. And often people make matters worse by responding back harshly. Sometimes a quiet word, a quiet response is often the best response. From my house to yours, God bless you. May God bless you. I hope you subscribe to my YouTube channel, and I hope to talk to you all soon again. Bye-bye. All my boyfriends, stories from my life. All my friends, stories from my life. Hello, y'all. I'm Diana Brienne, and I got to thinking today about, well, I wanted to share some stories. As you all know, I share different little true stories from my life. They can be funny stories, they can be sad stories, they can be tough time stories, they can be all kinds of stories, wonderful stories, happy stories. I have all kinds of stories in my pocket. And I think most of us do. We all have stories to tell. Some people don't tell their stories, and some people keep their stories to themselves, and other people share their stories. I love stories, and I love stories from other people's lives. I love to hear those stories. So I'm going to share with y'all a story from my life called All My Boyfriends. Well, as y'all know, I've been married to the love of my life for about 30 years, and he is the love of my life. I'm married for love. And so and that's a whole nother wonderful video about synchronicity and divine timing and divine connections. I mean, I just love that story, and I've told it before, but it's worth telling again in another future video of how my husband and I met each other. It's wonderful, and I believe that divine relationships have a purpose and have a reason greater than the relationship itself, and ours did. And so anyhow, I'll start off, kind of randomly with my boyfriends. I had a lot of them, more than I could ever count. And most of them I'm not going to tell you all about because there's too many, but I'll pick out a few and share them with you. And each one touched my life in a different way and prepared me for my future journey. And each one sort of linked my life. I believe people come into our lives, stay for a reason and for a season, and sometimes for a lifetime. It just depends. And they're there to teach us something, and we are there to teach them something that no one else could do. Well, my first boyfriend was Kirby. As many of you remember, Kirby was my childhood sweetheart. I was 5 and he was 6. And Kirby played with baby dolls. He was the rich boy in our small country-like town. And, rich was not really all that rich. They were able to afford a new car every year. I think it was a Chevy Impala. And we could only, afford our clunker, which was a broke down car that only rode in reverse half of the time. And so my brother and I, he was 16 and I was 5, and we would have to drive to the courthouse steps to get a box of commodities, which was like flour, milk, and eggs. They didn't have food stamps back then. And so we were the poor family. And so anyhow, my brother and I would drive in this car, and we'd have to drive in reverse. And so I would always be on the lookout for the police to make sure we didn't get pulled over. And so anyhow, my first boyfriend was Kirby. He lived next door. He was the rich little boy. He played with baby dolls, and he had every Barbie doll imaginable. Well, we couldn't afford Barbie because Barbie was $3, and so my parents bought me a Midge doll, which was like Barbie's cousin or friend. And so I always wanted a Barbie. And so I'd go over and play with all of his Barbies. He had the Barbie Dream House, the Barbie Mobile, the Barbie Camper. I mean, they had it all. And he had all the latest games, and so we would play board games together, and we had fun. Well, Kirby said one day, "Hey, let's get married." I said, "Okay." So I was 5, he was 6. He made his dog, the preacher, that was going to marry us, and we got it all set up out in his little yard. And I wore lace curtains as my wedding dress, and his grandmother's wig, which was kind of like a wig, real hard, stiff wig back then. And we got married. In our little kid's mind. He was 5, I was 5, he was 6. And so we just had fun playing with Barbie dolls and just doing what kids do. And then after that, Kirby and I, well, we would go to school together. We were in kindergarten together, and the bullies would try to beat him up. So every day I would go to school with him, and I would protect him from the bullies, and I would charge at the bullies like I was a bull, and they would get scared and they would run away. And so we never had to worry about the bullies, or Kirby didn't have to worry about the bullies as long as I was around to defend him. And so, yeah, Kirby was my first boyfriend. Then we moved away to another town close by, but it was another town. We're going to sit in Grandma's parlor at her 100-year-old sofa here, and it really is 100 years old. And so we moved away, and then when we were about, I was 15, he was 16, we got back together, and we ended up dating, and he had that new Chevy Impala, and so he'd pick me up, and we'd go off to some country road, you know, and a little bit of kissing. A lot of kissing, and so we wrote steamy love letters. Well, his parents found those steamy love letters, and they sent him off to boarding school, and that was it. Well, when we were both about 19 or 20, we reconnected, but I'd already moved to California, and so we reconnected when I was visiting, and he went on to be very, very successful in his life, and you know, I have not talked to him for ever since then, but you know, you kind of keep tabs on people, what they're doing in life out of curiosity, and he did really, really well, and but he was my first boyfriend. And then when I moved to California, I met Young Doctor in Love, as I call him. And the reason I call him Young Doctor in Love is because he was young, I was young. He was a young doctor, a young intern, and we fell madly in love, and we became an item almost instantly. Our eyes met, and we were just connected. And so we ended up going together for about 4 years, on and off. We would break up and make up, break up and make up. And he'd put up with all my endless boyfriends in between. And I had 4 brothers who were not really boyfriends, but they were very famous, well-known brothers, very successful. And they would come pick me up. One would pick me up in a Ferrari, and one would pick me up in a Rolls Royce. You got to remember, I was a small town girl who had grown up poor. So all of that looked so magical and rich. But then I broke up with them because, well, that was a whole nother story. But they kind of wanted more than I wanted to give, let's say it that way. And so I just took off, and I never answered their calls again. And but they made somebody a very, very famous actress, and I'm not going to say who that was, but they made her very famous. And I always say she stole my hairdo because I had that particular hairstyle that she ended up wearing that made her famous. But I always just say that jokingly. And but anyhow, let's see, Young Doctor in Love, that was a wonderful, wonderful, magical relationship, but it wasn't meant for marriage. It was more meant for, even though he wanted to get married, it just wasn't the right relationship, because I believe that our true relationships have a divine purpose, a higher divine purpose attached to them. And so that's why years later, my husband and I got married, and we've had this amazing journey. And that will be a whole nother video, which I've done before, about how I met my husband. So anyhow, then I met Mr. Big Boat. Now, Mr. Big Boat, I met him in a grocery store in Palm Springs, and he owned this great big yacht. So he took me everywhere on this big yacht. We just went all around, and we had a fabulous time. But I wasn't really interested in Mr. Big Boat. He was more of a friend. And so I kind of broke off with him. And then there was Mr. Big. Mr. Big was a very big, powerful man in Hollywood. And I met him, and he would send me flowers at work, and I would go, and one time he was taking me to dinner. And so I met him at the Beverly Hills Hotel, and we left in his little 2-seater black Mercedes convertible. Well, Mr. Big didn't know how to drive very well, and because he was used to being picked up by limousines. Well, he went through that big traffic circle there and almost got us into an accident because he didn't stop. And he had a little toupee, and his toupee ended up being crooked, and I had a little hairpiece on, and my hairpiece blew off, and so I had to stick it back on, and it was crooked at that point. So anyhow, he almost got us in an accident, so I never drove anywhere with him again, because he was a terrible, terrible driver. So anyhow, Mr. Big and I, he took me to meet this very famous movie star who was also a singer from the 50s, very, very well known. Wonderful, amazing, amazing man that I met, but we were meeting at Hamburger Hamlet, of all places. And so I got out of the car with this crooked hairpiece, with his crooked toupee, and my heel, as I got out, broke off my high heel. So now I had a broken high heel, a crooked hairdo, he had a crooked toupee, and away we went to connect with this big movie star. But I had a wonderful time, a wonderful time. So that was Mr. Big, and years later, Mr. Big, after I was married and I was living in Europe, I found out Mr. Big died of I think he died of a heart attack or a stroke. I don't know which he died of, but he was a nice man in my life. And so I met a lot of interesting people, and many of them were just friends, just friends. I always kept that distance. You know, very few did I actually have a real, genuine romantic relationship with. Young Doctor in Love I did. My husband, of course, I did. And a few others, you know. Y'all know who you are if you're listening to the video. And but there were other, you know, many other boyfriends and guys that I dated along the way. And then I had a significant relationship again in my early 20s that was very significant, that ended up ending. And he was a wonderful man, but he had come with a past, as we all do. And his past tended to overshadow our relationship. And it just couldn't get by that past. The past was too big. It wasn't a bad past or anything like that. It was actually, at one point in time, a good past, but it was just something that was too big for our relationship to get through. And so that ended. And that was pretty heartbreaking for me. That was really heartbreaking. You know, so I learned about heartbreak. And I think that if you've dated enough in life, you may experience heartbreak, but you do get through it. You do move out of it. And I'm grateful that I did move out of that relationship, because I would have never met my husband. And so later on, when I met my husband, it was just all divine timing and divine connection. And by then, I was so ready for marriage. I was so ready. I had dated a lot. If I was going to be single, I was very happy being single. I had a very happy single life. If I'd never gotten married, and yet I was living my best life. And yet, when I met my husband, I was willing to give it all up for the man I loved. And that's how you know it's true love. When you're willing to give up just about everything, you know it's right, because you have a divine destiny and a divine purpose. So those are a few of the many of the men in my life. Yeah, there was one more. And I had met a man in Palm Springs, very handsome man. And he, I didn't know he was married. He never told me that. And so we began dating. And then I began to kind of become suspicious that he was married. And when I found out, I immediately broke it off, because I believe that ever dating a married person, in my book, is very wrong. It's very hurtful to everyone. And I believe it ends up backfiring on you as a person. But because I didn't know he was married, I had no clue. And then little by little, you know, he was deceitful. He was deceitful. So I learned about deceitful relationships, when someone is deceitful to you. And so he was very married, and he was willing to leave his wife for me. And I said, absolutely not. You're married. You go back to your wife, and I want no part of you. And it was very difficult, because by then both of our emotions were very wrapped up into each other. And yet I knew that I was a strong enough person to break it off immediately as soon as I found out, because, you know, he belonged to somebody else. He had made that commitment. And why would I want someone else to break off with somebody and then come to me? I could never trust them. And even if, you know, they never cheated on me or whatever, I just wouldn't want to do that to anybody else, because that's a very, very, in my book, a wrong thing to do. And everybody sees things differently. And, you know, a lot of people out there might say, well, hey, I'm having an affair and I think it's okay. For me, it would never be okay. That's not okay, because people get hurt, and it involves lying and deceit. So when I found out, he flew me all over. I would fly to Washington, D.C. and, you know, stay at the, I can't remember the hotel, the Mayflower. I think it was called the Mayflower. Yeah, I stayed at the Mayflower. I had a suite. It was beautiful. And went to the Christmas tree lighting, the beautiful Christmas tree lighting and all that. And but yet I knew that, you know, there was no way There was no way. And so when I found it out, I ended it. And he pursued me for a long time, and I absolutely changed my number, did all that. So when I married my husband and we were living in Europe, he actually got my number and called me. And so, of course, I said, you know what? He said, well, let's get together. I said, okay, we'll get together. I'm going to bring my husband with me. You know what? I never heard from him again. That did it. And because I'm always true to my husband. And so anyhow, that was another story. And then there was the tow truck driver. I forgot about him. He wasn't a boyfriend. He was the guy that was pursuing me. I had this old car when I first moved to California and was going to college, and it broke down. Well, he was the tow truck driver. I call him Tow Truck Frank. And he fixed my car. Well, that night he came and tried to climb through my window, and I didn't know who it was, and so I started whacking him with the broom, and he jumped back outside of the window. I slammed the window, and he came over to the door, and I said, who is this? And he said, it's Tow Truck Frank. I just want a date. So these are just silly little stories from my life. And yeah, and you know, love found me because, well, I'm a loving person, and I try to do the right things in life. I may not be perfect, but I try to do the right things in life. And so love found its way to my doorstep, and I've been with my same husband, only husband, for about 30 years. So anyhow, well, may God bless y'all. I hope you like my story, and I hope to talk to you all soon again. So from my house to yours, may God bless y'all, and I'll talk to you then. Bye-bye. Ambivalence. Hello, you all. I'm Diana Brienne, and I got to thinking today about ambivalence. So what happens when we are ambivalent? Ambivalence simply means we're not certain. We don't know which way to go. We are sort of like drawn to this direction, and yet we're drawn to that direction, so we're kind of stuck in the middle. We're ambivalent. I think most people have experienced that, if not all people have experienced that at one point or another. We're just like, well, should I have this or should I have that? Should I do this? Should I do that? Should I choose A or should I choose B? We're ambivalent. Often ambivalence happens because, well, we don't have all the information yet. We can't predict the future, and we're not sure what's really going to be the outcome. I believe when we feel ambivalent, the most important thing we can do is gather correct information and also know what it is that we really want. Sometimes ambivalence can come because, well, we know that perhaps what we want to do is maybe not the right thing. So something is holding us back from going forward with that. Sometimes we don't even know why, but we just don't feel right about something. And so for me, when I don't feel right about something, I tend to put on the brakes and wait until I get more information, until I feel right about it, or I don't feel right about it and I don't do it. And I think often people just want to come up with answers. So sometimes they jump for an answer. And, you know, that can work out either way. And so for me, I try to get every bit of information that I can. I also make sure that this is what I truly want to do. If I'm ambivalent, let's say I was single and I met two men, and I believe I'm ambivalent about which one to marry. Well, you know what I believe? If I'm ambivalent, probably I shouldn't marry either of them, because I truly believe that when you are in love, you are in love. You know that that is the right person for you. And if you don't know it, like if you're ambivalent, like, I don't know if this is the right person for me, then there's something likely telling you why you're feeling this ambivalence. Because I know when I met my husband, I couldn't wait to get married. I was not ambivalent at all, nor was he. And so I believe that ambivalence is often a sign that we're still uncertain, we don't have all the information, or we're not even sure that that is really what we want. Ambivalence can benefit us greatly if we pay attention to it. Can it hold us back? Sure. I think at some point it's important to come to a form of resolution of whether we should move forward or not move forward, whether we should choose A, whether we should choose B, or we should choose nothing at all. I think ambivalence can be used for our benefit when harnessed right, and when we get correct information, and when we truly know what's right for our lives. From my house to yours, may God bless you, and I hope to talk to you soon again. Bye-bye. Apologies and forgiveness, a lifestyle. Apologies and forgiveness. Hello, you all. I'm Diana Brienne, and we are having this absolutely gorgeous, gorgeous day today. I just finished my 5-mile run, and I'm getting ready to take off all of our cushions from our porches, because we get a completely overwhelming amount of pollen that comes at this time of year. And so I am going to take off all the cushions for that reason, because otherwise the cushions can get ruined. And so I got to thinking about apologies and forgiveness. So when should you apologize? Well, I think you should apologize as soon as you're going to be sincere in that apology. I think if you're not going to be sincere in your apology, then it's probably not wise to apologize, because apologies need to be sincere. And when do you forgive somebody? Well, you know, forgiveness is a process, it's a journey. And I think a lot of times people think that they have to forgive all at once. Well, I always say I forgive before even the occurrence happened. And so I make forgiveness a lifestyle. I think it's very important for me to forgive, because, well, if we don't forgive, we're holding a grudge. And if we're holding a grudge, that's holding us back in life, in any area of life. Just because we forgive someone doesn't mean that we necessarily need to go back into that relationship. We forgive them. We release them from what they have done, as far as within who we are. And that doesn't mean that other people won't hold them accountable, or other situations won't hold them accountable. It just simply means that we no longer hold them with animosity or with grudge holding or anything else. It's important for us to release it so that we can move on in life. So when should we apologize? Well, like I said, we should apologize whenever we have wronged another, and then we need to make the best amends that we can, meaning we try to fix it to the best of our ability. Sometimes some situations we can't fix, and we have to move on, either in the relationship or out of the relationship. Some situations just cannot be moved on with. Now, what happens if someone doesn't forgive us? Well, if someone doesn't forgive us, that's really not our problem. That becomes their problem, and they're going to have to deal with their own issue. And if someone doesn't want to forgive us, we have to forgive ourselves, and then we have to move forward in the very best way, with or without them. But staying in a relationship where there's unforgiveness, it's going to hurt the relationship. You know, part of long-term marriages is a lot of forgiveness, because, well, you're going to step on each other's toes, and along the way. And if you don't have forgiveness in your marriage, and you constantly are grudge holding, that's going to have a lot of create a lot of havoc and a lot of problems in your marriage or in any relationship. So I make forgiveness a lifestyle. Doesn't mean I necessarily let that person back into my life, or back into my life up and close and personal. It just means I've forgiven them. And I apologize quickly and sincerely. I don't like to hear an apology from someone that's not sincere, because I know it's not going to be backed up with change. A sincere apology is always backed up with change, a permanent change and consistent change for the positive. And an insincere apology is not backed up with change. And so I believe that both apologies and both forgiveness are two very, very important aspects of a person's life and their success. Because without those two, we are probably going to be held back from our best life. So I make apologies and forgiveness a part of my lifestyle. From my house to yours, from my beautiful day to yours, and my noisy camera, because when I walk around, my camera jiggles and it makes noise. So anyhow, I wish you all a wonderful, wonderful day, and I hope to talk to you all soon again. May God bless you. Talk to you then. Bye-bye. Being bold in life. Bold in life. Hello, y'all. I'm Diana Brienne. You know, I got to thinking about being bold in a good, positive way, going for what we really want, saying what we mean, doing what is in our best interest and in the best interests of those that we love. You know, so many people are afraid to be bold. You know, I come on here every day on my YouTube channel, pretty much every day. Yeah, I think every day, several times a day usually. And I come on and I talk about all kinds of subjects, and I put myself out there. I'm being bold because you know what? When you put yourself out there, you're bound to get criticized by some people. And it's just the fact of life. But when we're bold, often that's where all the blessings are, on the other side of being bold. Now, of course, we want to be bold in the right way. We don't want to be abrasive, because abrasive people are not usually well liked by anybody. But being bold in a positive, polite, nice way, that's the way to go, in my opinion. You know, I come on with a different hairstyle almost every day. You know, I come on with a different topic. I never know what I'm going to talk about. Sometimes I'm silly. Sometimes I'm just myself. Well, I am myself. I'm always myself. That's being bold when we're truly our authentic self. That is being bold. You know, so many people just are so afraid of being who they are, and they're afraid of being criticized. And if they get criticized, they just fall apart. You know, when you're on social media, you're going to get criticized. You're going to get criticized by people that you have no clue who they are, because they have no clue who you are. They just go around and they like to criticize. That's, well, what they do. That's what they do. And so you can let that stop you. You can let that stop you from your best life. You can let that stop you from being on social media. You can let it stop you, period, in life. And, you know, I believe in going for what I want. Sometimes, you know, my knees can wobble a little bit, you know, because my voice can get a little bit shaky when you're really going for what you want in life. But that's just a natural reaction for going for what is right for your life. You've got to determine, is this right for my life? Is this right for the people that I love? Is this right for the people around me? Because we always want to take into consideration other people, especially the people that we love. You know, sometimes people say, well, I'm just going to go do this regardless of what my wife or my husband thinks, or my kids thinks, or my neighbors thinks. Well, I don't think that's right. I think we do take other people into consideration. I do. And I would want the people that I love to take me into consideration, because love is about taking each other into consideration. And so, yeah, I believe in being bold in life. I believe in going for my dreams. I believe in stepping out, and sometimes stepping out into the unknown, but in a positive way, making sure that it's the right direction I'm supposed to step out into. You know, when I left one town and moved to another about 7, 8 years ago, where we live now. That was a bold action. That was a bold action. And, sometimes starting a new career, a better career, can be a bold action. Changing your hairstyle can be a bold action. Reaching out to meet new people can be a bold action. A lot of times people go into a room and they just kind of sit to themselves and they don't smile and they don't talk to people because, well, they're afraid of, they're afraid to reach out. But I'm bold. I go up to people and say, hey, hi, I'm Diana Brienne. It's great to meet you. If they don't like me, I'll move on to somebody else. It doesn't matter. I'm bold in life because I always feel that the best things are on the other side of being bold and taking bold, positive action in one's life. From my house to yours, may God bless y'all, and I'll talk to y'all soon again. Bye-bye.